Remember me when I'm gone away, gone far away into the silent land. Those words from a poem by Christina Rossetti remind us why we've gathered here this afternoon. Well, it's the recent passing of David Murray which has brought us together. We've come here for a few minutes to remember him with a short celebration of his life. So good afternoon, everybody. My name's Sam Hanna. I'm an independent celebrant, and it's my privilege to lead this brief celebration of David's life. I'd like to begin by saying you're all very welcome here today. I'd like to thank you for coming to pay your respects to David, and for being here to support his dad, his sister and brother Beverly in Denver, and all of the wider family circle as they prepare to say farewell. And as the service is being live streamed, I'd also like to welcome anybody who's watching online. While we're here this afternoon to celebrate David's life, it's important to remember that we're also mourning a death. Whether a death is expected or not, it still comes as an awful shock for the family. So it'll take some time for them to come to terms with what has happened. And once over that initial shock, you begin to grieve. So David's family are now experiencing grief, something which is a hard and painful part of the healing process. But of course you grieve because of your love for the person who has died. And the closer you were, the greater the feeling of loss. And grief and sadness are natural reactions to any death. But at this moment, what's important to remember is that there were many good and happy times in David's life, and celebrate the fact that his life holds many memories for his family. In a moment, I'm going to take a quick look back at David's life before sharing some family memories. But first, we're going to listen to the hymn, "The Day Thou Gavest, Lord, is Ended."
The
David Murray was only 54 years old. He was born on the 16th of February 1969, the eldest of June and David Murray's 3 children, having a younger sister Beverly and a younger brother Denver. And sadly, his mum June passed away in February 2021. David spent his first few years living in Broughshane before the family moved to Dunclug Gardens, to the house which has since been his family home. And having started school in Broughshane, David moved to Dunclug Primary School and then went on to Dunclug Secondary. After leaving school, he moved to Station View in Glarryford to live with his mum's parents. And when his granny passed away, he became his granda's carer and stayed in Glarryford until his granda also passed away. And then it was back to Dunclug, where he had a flat for several years before moving to Carrickfergus. And later, David moved to Belfast to be closer to the city hospital, which meant less travelling for his regular dialysis, needed because of the kidney problems he had suffered for many years. And after about 10 years living in a city centre apartment, David moved to Lewis Mews last year. While looking after his granny and granda, David learned to cook, and cooking became his greatest interest. When he had his flat in Dunclug, he loved nothing more than having all his friends round for dinner. And he always had all the equipment that he needed for cooking, the expensive equipment at that. Friends have always played a big part in David's life. Around 15 years ago, while living in Belfast, he became friends with some Germans, and had several holidays in Germany where he made more friends. In the last few years, as his life became more restricted because of illness, David was very close to his niece, Charlie, who also lived in Belfast. And he also had a good relationship with his aunts, his dad's sister Edith and his mum's sister Margaret. And there's another friend from primary school days. That's Leo, who actually lives in Scotland and travels all over the world in his job. And Leo visited David in hospital back on the 31st of March, and he's actually here today, having travelled some distance to be here. David's last few months were spent in hospital because his condition was gradually getting worse, until he passed away peacefully on Monday past with his family by his side. And now a few stories from the family. When David was at the Seven Towers swimming pool with his sister Beverly, he put Beverly's armbands on her ankles for a joke. Beverly almost drowned, and all hands were told to exit the pool. It was a really funny day for David, and Beverly's first swimming lesson was also her first diving lesson. David was well loved for his thoughtful dinner parties, where having a crowd for dinner was one of his favourite things to share. And he was no stranger to reading, and his book collection certainly proves that. And music was another big love, with Kate Bush being one of his many favourites. Max was his pet dog for many years, and no other dog could be like Max in David's eyes. And after Max's death, David kept his casket near him always, and today is no different, as Max has been placed side by side with David. David never let his dialysis get in the way of his care for his late mum, June. He helped in caring for her until the very end, even though he was very ill himself. And I will continue with a poem called When I'm Gone. When I come to the end of my journey, and I travel my last weary mile, just forget if you can that I ever frowned, and remember only the smile. Forget unkind words I've spoken, remember some good I've done. Forget that I ever had heartache, and remember I've had loads of fun. Forget that I've stumbled and blundered, and sometimes fell by the way. Remember I have fought some hard battles, and won ere the close of the day. Then forget to grieve for my going, I would not have you sad for a day. And in summer, just gather some flowers and remember the place where I lay. And come in the shade of the evening, when the sun paints the sky in the west. Stand for a few moments beside me and remember only my best. And having heard that little bit about David's life, we'll now pause for a few moments, which will be an opportunity for all of you to remember him and reflect on his life, and also an opportunity for any of you to offer a silent prayer for him. David Murray could best be described as his own man. He was a caring and loving son and brother, but he could be thrawn. He could be quick-tempered, and both understandable because, after all, he lived with poor health and disability for many years. And although David hadn't lived in Ballymena for a number of years, he was fondly remembered by many people, and he'd be greatly missed by his family. And for each of us, life is a journey through from our birth until our death. The time taken for that journey varies, but now, after just 54 years, David has completed his journey. So in a few minutes we leave here to go to Ballymena Cemetery, where there will be a short service of committal as he is laid to rest beside his mum. And now, to bring this short service to an end, please join me in saying the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Now would the congregation please stand.